We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Joy in my house, joy in my house, joy. I got joy.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality show with a touch of recovery. A reality show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who shares.
And I'm joined here by my guest co-host, Aliyah Moulden. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Well, I'm very excited to have you come on the show and be my guest co-host.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. Today's going to be a really fun day.
Today is going to be fun because we have one of your friends coming on the show and sharing his story and his organization, which is an amazing organization, which is the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. The Boys and Girls Clubs of La Habra is actually where he is the executive director. So I'm excited to have him on the show.
Me too. Me too.
Well, if you don't know who Aliyah is, you definitely need to. You saw her on the 12th season of The Voice. You were on Blake Shelton's team. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
It was a lot of fun. I still can't believe it happened. I watch it back and I feel like it wasn't me because it just feels like a completely different life and like too good to be true almost. But it was a lot of fun and I'm just extremely grateful for the experience.
I always like to let our audience and viewers get to know how we met. I met you at the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles Celebrity Blood Drive.
Yes.
Raul Gonzalez, which was a good friend of mine who passed away on a tragic accident in the river, was the organizer of that. How did you get involved with that?
You know, me and my mom have always made it a big point to do as many charity events as we can. And my mom heard about it through our friend Chris, who is a rapper for children. And so we heard about it through him and we got invited and we just couldn't say no. It was a really amazing event. And I did it for multiple years. And whether I was sick or whether I was feeling well, I went and I supported because I feel like it's such an important cause. And it really opened my eyes to see kids, you know.
In challenging situations, yeah, because it was for blood donation of their platelets.
Yeah.
What are you up to now? Because I know you're on a YouTube series called Chicken Girls by Bratz. Tell us a little bit about that series.
Well, it's a really fun series. It's about two dance teams, the rival dance teams, and I'm the captain of one of the dance teams. And she's really sassy, and she's from an outsider's perspective, she could look mean, but she's actually not mean. She's just very misunderstood, you know. And she's just a really hard worker. And it's a musical, so everybody sings, and it's really really fun. I've been having a great time, and everybody on set is so nice, and I've just been having the time of my life on set.
Well, tell us, the audience and viewers, where can they go to find out more about Chicken Girls?
Well, Chicken Girls is on YouTube, so you guys can find it on YouTube. Just search in Chicken Girls, and all the episodes will come up.
And you're working on your next season?
Yes, we're working on the next season right now. See, part one of season 1 has come out, but we're still filming more.
Perfect. Performance-wise, you had a great showing at The Voice. Yeah. You sang with Alicia Cara.
Yeah.
How was that experience like?
That was insane. I actually sang covers of Alessia Cara all the time. Like I used to, her song Here was in my set. So everywhere I'd perform, I would sing her song probably for like 2 years before I'd sang with her. And so once I found out that I was singing with her, it was kind of like, I didn't believe it almost.
It was surreal.
And I met her and she was super duper sweet. And she introduced herself to everybody in like the most polite way. And she was very professional and I felt very welcome. I didn't feel like,
threatened her.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I was intruding on her song because it's kind of personal for to like share a song with somebody else on the stage because it's her song. And it's a very important message that the song shares. And I felt very welcomed and very invited.
Well, talking about performances, you have an up-and-coming performance at the Young Entertainment Awards. You'll be performing. But not only that, you're also performing for the Boys and Girls Club event as well.
Yeah. So I'm doing the Young Entertainment Awards. I got asked to do that. And it was just an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. And I'm not sure what song I'm singing yet, but I'm doing that in April, I believe. I believe so, April. And I'm doing the Boys and Girls Club, the National Boys and Girls Club
There
event
you go.
in April. And I did the regional one in Vegas, and that was really, really fun. And there was like a lot of people there. And this one's going to be even more people because it's not regional anymore, it's national. So it's everybody from all the Boys and Girls
Wow.
Clubs.
Yeah, I'm
So-
still waiting for my invite as well.
But Mark had submitted me, the person that we're going to talk to today, he had submitted me so many times and I had never gotten picked. But this year I did get picked and I'm going to go sing. And the CEO of Boys and Girls Club called me and he asked me to come and I cried a little bit on the inside and I said, yes, I'll go. And
Very
yeah.
cool. Very cool. Well, you also have an acting career, and I wanted to touch on this. Talk a little bit about what you're doing now, acting wise.
Well, last year I did a movie for Netflix that's coming out this year, and it's called Anastasia Once Upon a Time. And then recently, actually like Tuesday, I just wrapped a movie for Chicken Girls, which we barely announced. But Lionsgate is producing it, and so it's pretty
good for
pretty
you.
big. And
Do you have a good budget for the marketing and the
I'm-
distribution?
yeah, it's gonna be pretty big. I'm really, really excited, and that's also a musical, so I do sing in that, which is really exciting. And I'm doing a couple other things that I can't talk about yet because you're not supposed to say anything till the contract is signed.
That's
and,
right.
like,
Wait for the ink to dry.
Yeah.
Wait for the ink to dry. Well, I want to thank you for coming on and guest co-hosting. We have an
Thank you
amazing
so
show,
much.
ladies and gentlemen. Today we have Mark Chavez from the Boys and Girls Club. He is executive director of the Boys and Girls Club. Been with the organization for years. He's going to talk a little bit about that. But last week we had a great show with Erin Green. She is a contestant on America's Next Top Model and one of the oldest contestants to be on America's Next Top Model since Tyra Banks lifted the age limit. Because it's interesting that we're talking about her being the oldest contestant because you were the youngest contestant to make it to the finals.
Yeah, and me and my mom would religiously binge watch America's Next Top Model every weekend, like because every weekend they'd play it on like I forgot the Oxygen Network or something. Every weekend they'd play it, and they'd all day. So me and my mom, the whole weekend, we would just watch America's Next Top Model. Like, I don't like her. Oh, I love her. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, we would just what our favorite pictures were, and just so it's kind of crazy that they raised the age limit because they did the plus size thing one year, and I think they're doing that again. And then they did the boys and girls, which is like really that was crazy.
Interesting, yeah.
That was crazy because they're all living in the same house, and I was like, whoa, what's happening?
Well, I'm glad to see that your career is taking off and that you're still staying very consistent and that you're also giving time to be even here on this show and to bring on a special guest like Mark today. Mark is the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of La Habra, and he's been with the organization for years. He's going to talk about his career, his life, and now how this organization is giving back so much. I want you to know that you can follow us on Facebook /Joy in My House. We also have an Instagram account where you can follow us on Instagram and a Twitter account where you can tweet us with any questions or comments for our in-studio guest co-host and our in-studio guests. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joy in My House. I want you to stay tuned. We're going to come right back with Mark Chavez from the Boys and Girls Club of La Habra. You're not going to want to miss. And our guest co-host, Aliyah Moulden. Stay tuned. We're going to come right back.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hello, I'm Joel Ramirez
And I'm Lolita Robinson Coppage, and welcome to Joy in My House
on LATalkLive.com. Inspirational radio,
with a touch of recovery.
a reality show where nothing is left unsaid,
And no one is insignificant who says it.
exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Join My House, inspirational reality show with a touch of recovery. I'm joined here by my guest co-host, Aliyah Moulden, and our in-studio guest, Mark Chavez. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
I want to thank you for coming on. Mark, you're the executive director of the Boys and Girls Clubs of La Habra.
Correct.
And I want to thank you for coming on because you must be extremely busy. I got an opportunity to look at the facility. You guys have 100 things going on at one time.
Sure
100
do.
projects as opposed to the programs. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it.
We always like to let people know how we met. We met through Martha Hernandez, which is Aliyah Moulden's mom. We met Aliyah Moulden, as we talked in the beginning of the segment, at the Children's Hospital Los Angeles Red Carpet event. But how did you meet Aliyah?
Well, I met Aliyah. She was age 5, and I think she's 16 now. Age 5 at the Boys and Girls Club. Now, she was very young. And at the time, I don't see the little kids very often, but when I do, we noticed Aliyah at that time.
Because I was running around a lot.
And all the 5 and 6-year-olds do that. But still at the time, she was just another great child that came to the club, and we didn't know anything much about her at the time, obviously until later.
Well, I gotta ask you, Aliyah, what do you remember your first impression of Mark that you can remember? I know it must have been obviously not when you were 5, but as you got older, what do you remember about Mark?
Well, when I was younger, I used to think of like everybody wearing suits as being like really scary. And so Mark would be wearing suits, so I'd be kind of like, oh, I'm not gonna talk to him.
That's somebody of importance,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I would just, I just saw him as like a big tall man that was the boss, and and then as I got older, we became closer because I started singing, and I told people that I started singing, and I started singing at events for the Boys and Girls Club. I think once I started turning like 10 or 11,
Wow.
I started doing things for the Boys and Girls Club, like
About that
their
age. Mhm.
like their award ceremonies and stuff like that. So that's when I got to know him more, and he's always been very, very kind to my mother and I, and my brother actually went to the Boys and Girls Club as well.
Wow.
And so I actually went to the Boys and Girls Club when I was 4, not officially, but I would like go and pick him up, and I'd run around and like, try to go hang out with the K1 kids. But
She got by me then, age 4.
yeah, I did.
You were insured.
Yeah, I did. And so, I feel like I've known him forever because for as long as I can remember, at
You've
least,
known him. Well, that's amazing because you got awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Boys and Girls Club of La Habra. And Mark, I got to ask you, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, Aliyah, again, has been coming since age 5. And over the years, every year we have our annual Youth of the Year Awards program, and where we honor all the kids who are well-deserving for their behavior and participation. Now, Aliyah was a big participant, but she wasn't there every single day, but she was there a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's why she was just one of our better members and a typical member. But over the years, I kind of remember her getting like Youth of the Month and those type of awards, which are very good. But I never remember her getting the big awards because as she started aging, become a little older, she wasn't there as much.
Right.
But she was still there, 3-4 times a week, which is quite a bit still.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, we've seen her for so many years that after she made it big and it did very well on the show on The Voice, the staff just got together and said, hey, Aliyah's been with us 11 years. We haven't truly recognized her for all her accomplishments in the
Wow.
club and in her personal life. So the staff decided, hey, let's come up with this award. What am I calling it?
The Lifetime Achievement Award.
Actually, I'm calling it the Club Lifetime Achievement
The Club
Award.
Lifetime
So that's the
Achievement
first time we've awarded that award. And nobody
Wow.
more well-deserving than Aliyah because, we just think she's done well on her own also, and not just because of us. We think we've done some good things for her, but she was raised by her mother, Martha Jimenez, who I've known for quite some time now. So we were honored, and we just did that maybe, I think in late January we had our awards, and she was there, and I don't think she knew what she was getting. And so she was pretty
She didn't.
surprised.
I kind of ruined that surprise when I called Martha. Well, I saw that you were setting up because I passed by your Boys and Girls Club 3-4 times a week, consistently, every week. and I saw your chairs up, and I already had talked to you about coming on the show, and then you told me that she was getting an award, and I sent you a mad face because Martha didn't invite me. And I called Martha, and Martha's, wait a minute, I wasn't sure what it was. What's going on? And I kind of let the cat out of the bag. I was hoping nobody was mad at me at that point. But what an amazing just recognition from the
Yeah.
Boys and Girls Club of La Habra, someplace where they set a foundation for you and a safe place for you to go, that now they were validating and giving you an award. How did that make you feel?
You know, it actually felt very, very good because when I was younger, I was there from when they opened to when they closed. Because
Wow.
so, and as I got older, my grandma became able to pick me up more. So I was still there until my grandma could pick me up, and then I left school to do The Voice, and so I wasn't at school anymore. And but I still went, and I still supported them, and I still went to all their to everywhere, like community events like the Corn Festival, and I still try to be a big part of the community, even though like every day we'd be driving up to LA. I really wanted to like stay in my La Habra roots, and so just that my effort to stay in my La Habra roots, just you know, the Boys and Girls Club has done so much for me, so just getting that award just means a lot.
It means
So,
a lot, I bet. I can see it in your eyes.
yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit and let our audience and viewers get to know you a little bit, Mark. Tell us,
Sure.
where were you born?
I was born in Montebello, California, 1961. So now they know my age.
Well, tell us, how was it growing up in Montebello? What was the
Montebello-
environment like?
Montebello's great. No, I'm a Hispanic. Unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish. I wish I was bilingual. My parents are bilingual, and every time they wanted to teach us, we refused. My siblings. Montebello was a great town. Most of the Hispanics there, we all spoke English. And we go to school, we all spoke English. None of us spoke Spanish. So I kind of regret not learning.
Not learning.
But it hasn't hurt me. But I still wish I had been able to do that.
Been able to do that. Just talk about your parents. Did you grow up with both parents in the household?
I did. My mother and father, they were married 32 years, and they did get divorced eventually. But all the years they're at home, they were strict, and they took care of us. They emphasized school to us. They both didn't graduate from college. They both high school graduates, and that's not a knock. And they just really pushed us. Said, hey, if you want to succeed, you got to get out there and continue your education. So I did, and I pushed myself, and they had a good life. My father was a truck driver, and my mother was a bank teller. So they were doing okay. And again, we lived in a middle income area in Montebello, and right next to a park. So I was always at the park. So it was great.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because see, I didn't know that. You were always at the park. So you always kind of had a place where you were to go and just kind of hang out, which is kind of what Aliyah felt with the Boys and Girls Club of La Habra.
Yeah.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Well, tell us, were you a church-going family? Were you raised, a lot of Hispanics who raised Catholic and made us go to church and do catechism.
Right.
Was there anything like that in your life?
Yeah, we did. We were Catholics, and we went to the St. Benedict Church in Montebello. We did go as a family. I can recall all the time, but later on, as we got older, I started going by myself as a teenager, maybe with my sister.
Oh, wow. How
But yeah,
interesting.
we did. I did all my sacraments. The Catholic. Let's see, what do we do? First
Confession.
communion,
Confession, communion,
and then what's the second one? We were in 8th grade, right?
First Holy Communion, confirmation.
Confirmation. Oh, thank you. But, yeah, I did do all that. So I went through all that, and it was great. And I had no problem. And then, maybe I'm jumping the gun, but it's just funny how I ended up being a 4th grade elementary school teacher at a parochial school in Alhambra for a
Wow.
couple years. I never thought I'd be teaching religion, So I was teaching all the basic the subjects, but at the Catholic school they want you to teach religion. So
Well,
I did
what's
that.
interesting is how God, my show is a faith-based show, so I always talk about how God works in my life. Had an opportunity to talk about God in Aliyah's life when she was on the show. It's amazing how when we look back on it, hindsight 2020, we're able to see the little places where God was working in our lives, where when we're in it, we have no idea, but yet God was there and present in our lives. It's so interesting.
Sure.
Because I wanted to touch on growing up in La Habra, growing up in Montebello. Did you struggle with any challenges? Did you struggle with anything at a younger age during your elementary years?
I don't recall any challenges and struggles. We did have a challenge in our home. My father back in 1971, he was a truck driver, and he got in a major accident. He should have died, but the Lord pulled him through, and
Wow.
he had been disabled since. So it kind of changed our home a little bit.
The dynamic of the
It
home.
did. Then my mom had to continue working full time, and it was tough. It was tough. I remember it was like 3 a.m. We heard my mother crying, and I was like 11 years old. And you think it's a dream. You're just lying in bed. You think it's a dream, but she was crying and upset. You heard her, and all of a sudden there was a relative that came to the house, and they finally told us that my father had been in an accident up in Merced, California.
Wow.
He was a diesel truck driver, and he went off the bridge. But he survived it, but he was disabled the rest of his life. But he came through it okay. He did come through, and eventually he bought a liquor store and did that kind of work. But it just changed everything. It was
Right.
I had to stop doing certain things like sports and stuff that I really enjoyed. I couldn't sign up for teams because I didn't think we had the money. But of course, later on they said, "Oh no, we could have afforded that." But I just felt guilty going to them and said, "Hey, I need $25 to go join this basketball team."
Well, that's interesting that you felt such a responsibility at such a young age. Getting to see Aliyah growing up, even though it's been a short time, we've known each other. You were looking back 8 months. We had met before, but you were so mature when I met you on the red carpet at the children's drive. But I said, "Oh, I'm gonna call you," and your mom was like, "Call me for what? For what show?" I remember her telling me that. I'm looking at her right now, not knowing. I just saw something in her and her maturity, and it seems like you kind of had that at a young age where you felt responsible and say, "No, I'm not going to ask my parents because that's a lot of money."
Yeah, at the time you don't think that. I just I don't know how mature I was. I was a typical kid, but
But to still have that compassion, say, "Hey, maybe I
Yeah.
shouldn't ask him because it's
Yeah.
$25." There's something there underlying that showed your compassion for that.
yeah, we
which
heard
is
all
interesting.
we heard them, all the discussions and struggles in the house. We hear
Mhm.
that, so I kind of said, maybe I shouldn't ask him to, and I won't play him.
I should show some more of the struggles at my house. Then maybe my kids won't ask me. But let's talk about your high school days, because Aliyah, you were going to high school
I was.
and then had to leave high school
Yes, and then
to do the show. How was that like? How was that transition? I wanted to touch on that because I want people who are listening and viewing to also see the difference, the contrast. Because you had to leave.
Yeah, for me, I had really good relationships with all of my teachers, and I really enjoyed them pushing me because I am a very talkative person, and I get distracted very easily. So in my teachers, because I was in a lot of honors classes when I was in high school and AP classes, so my teachers were always pushing me to do my best, and when I started homeschooling, there was nobody to like
Right.
and it was a big, big difference. And I just wasn't as motivated, and I missed my teachers, and I missed like my groups in class.
The
And
social part of it.
yeah, yeah. And even if I didn't have that many friends in high school because my high school was very like all the theater kids hung out together and all the
Very
football
cliquish,
very
yeah.
cliquey, yeah. And I was not involved in apps. I wasn't involved in anything because outside of school I was doing all these shows and singing. So I wasn't in any like clique
Clique.
per se, And so I kind of just hung out with a couple of friends, but that I saw them every day, and I didn't see them every day anymore. And instead of doing school to just focus on school, I was doing school on a set where 30 minutes later we'd have to go on stage and give the performance or our life or of our life, or in 30 minutes we'd be getting sent home and be getting eliminated. Like, you never knew.
That's an amazing contrast because you were in high school, Mark. Talk a little bit about your high school.
Well, Montebello High School. I did okay in school. I wasn't the smartest student, but I did fine. Not that I got by, but I was proud. But I was an athlete. I played all 4 years basketball and 4 years in baseball. 2 years varsity basketball, 2 years varsity baseball, and I was the captain of the basketball team.
Wow.
And I made all league. That's not a brag. I mean, I wish I could have made college and pros, but it was. High school was I miss high school. It was a great experience.
What I thought was interesting is having had the opportunity to talk to you and get your testimony and get your story beforehand. You said something that was profound to me because you said you didn't like to get into trouble. You didn't want to get into trouble. You didn't want to cause problems, which I found interesting because I was the opposite. I was, man, if that looked like a little dangerous thing to do, you want to start a little fire here, right? Get the lighter fluid, let's see how big we can make it. I was the opposite, and my kids are the opposite of me too. They don't like to get into trouble. Tell us a little bit about that attitude. Tell us about what you were going through during high school that you were trying to stay out of trouble.
Yeah, I saw no reason to get in fights and all. I try to stay out of trouble. I did have a girlfriend in high school, which kept me kind of calm too. But she was the cheerleader in the program as well. But no, I avoided trouble. I
Mhm.
avoided drinking and smoking and my parents they raised me well. They just keep clean,
They
keep your
kept you
nose clean.
grounded.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like Aaliyah's mom does that for Aaliyah. It keeps her busy, but it seems like your music has been an outlet for you. Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Yes, I feel like when I was a lot younger, like 8,
Mhm.
I was very like you when you were younger, and I
Mhm.
was like, I want to try everything. Like, oh, I'm gonna ride my bike. And then when I was 10, I had a really big wake up call. I was riding a bike where I was not supposed to be riding a bike. My mom said, don't ride bikes on the boulevard, and my friend's grandpa said, don't ride bikes on the boulevard. But we really wanted to go to Target and buy some makeup, so we so we rode bikes on the boulevard. And I was not an experienced bike rider. I'd only been riding a bike for probably like 3 months because I learned very late, and I got hit by a car. And so after that, I was like, I am never doing anything I am not supposed to be doing ever again. And my mom was just like,
Told you.
My-
I got hit by a car at age 5. I was
yeah.
moving my little tricycle in the neighborhood, and I got hit by a car.
Were you
Oh,
riding? Were you riding it on the boulevard?
No, on the street.
Okay,
In the neighborhood.
then it wasn't your fault. Then it was my fault.
Well, what's interesting is because your music was your outlet, your music was your out, and it seems like sports for you, playing basketball, gave you a direction, gave
Yeah.
you a validation, especially when you're young and you're a teen. You're looking for that purpose, but yet that somewhat gives you some leadership skills, gives you some direction, gives you some accolades as well.
Right. Yeah, I did. And after high school, I wanted to play college ball, so I did. I played about a half a season with Rio Hondo Community College in baseball. I was a backup catcher. I was a pretty good hitter, but when you get to college,
Yeah,
they are everybody's the same. They're all good, so it was tough for me.
Well, I wanted to talk about that because you would go off to college, directly off to college, right?
Yes.
And how were those years? Let's talk about was it difficult to transition from high school to college? Because you talk about the transition from just going from being in high school to being homeschooled. How was the transition from high school to college?
No, it was fine. I applied for some good schools like UCLA. I want to go to UCLA badly, but we could not afford it. And back then, even those days, UCLA was expensive. So I opted for Rio Hondo Community College, which was a great move for me. 2 years there, learn how to study in college and made a lot of friends.
Right.
And I eventually transferred to Cal State Los Angeles. And I graduated in 1984 with a bachelor's degree from California State University, Los Angeles.
Amen to that. Look at that.
Yeah.